Hey there, Jamie with Brazelton Realty here, and welcome to Living in Northern Colorado. On this channel, we try to teach you everything you need to know about living in this oasis north of Denver. Now today, we are going to be talking about what should you be doing if you're getting ready to sell your house. So you're thinking about selling your house. Now you may not be thinking about selling it right away. Maybe you're a few months or maybe even a year or so out from selling your house, but you need to be doing some things. And doing these things, they're gonna help you get the most money for that house possible. So I'm gonna give us 8 things to be thinking about before we want to sell our house. Now, before I begin, right now we're in 2021 and this is an absolutely insane seller's market. So you may be thinking, why do I need to do all these things to sell my house when I can just list it as is and it'll sell no problem? Well, that's a fair argument, to be honest. And the hard part about this is we never can have a true apples to apples comparison. So we can't guarantee that by doing some of these things, you will actually get more money. But I will tell you, I show a lot of houses. I show hundreds of houses a year. And one of the things that I notice more than anything is my buyers, when they go into a house, there are certain things that will make them almost go crazy for that house. There's certain things that when you enter into that property and they see that it's already taken care of, it gives them a feeling, right? It gives them a sense that this is a solid house and they're more willing to pay more money for it. They're more willing to forgo the inspection on the property. They will do more for a property with these things done to it than they will another property. So will you get more for your house? I honestly think you will. I think you will not only get more for your house, I think it will be a much easier process through the long term of that transaction than it would if you didn't do these things to your house. Now, that being said, yes, you will sell your house in 2021, no matter what's been done to it or what hasn't been done to it. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize the amount of money that you get at closing for your property. And here are 8 things that I think you need to consider if you want that to happen. Now, the first thing that you need to be concerned about is some of the maintenance that you need to have taken care of on that property. Do you have a fresh filter in your furnace? Do you have any leaky faucets? Do you have some nail holes in your walls that need to be patched up? And do you have some paint that needs to be touched up? Do you have some door handles that aren't quite tight? There's a million things in this category. And these are things, quite frankly, as homeowners, we should be doing anyways, but I am just as guilty as anybody else. And sometimes you just get so busy that you start neglecting some of those simple maintenance things. But I'm telling you, when a buyer walks into your house and they start seeing these little things that haven't been taken care of, immediately they make assumptions about who lives there. And they're gonna assume that the person living there isn't taking good care of that property, and they're gonna be less likely to go all out on a property like that. So take care of those little things. Take care of the screens that need to be replaced, or the doors that don't shut properly, or the leaky faucets, or whatever the case is. The buyers may not notice those things right away, but if they do an inspection and that inspection report comes back, if there's a long list of little things, that may scare off buyers too. Next, you want to update the front of your house, right? We call this the curb appeal to your house. Now, it doesn't have to be done to the hilt. It doesn't have to have the most beautiful flowers and well manicured bushes, but it does need to look nice. You need to make it look like what's there is intentional. When you have grass that's overgrown or bushes that are overgrown, it looks like the person living there doesn't take good care of the property. And more often than not, a buyer is going to walk through that front door, and by the time they've gotten to that front door, they know if they're going to like what's inside or not based on what's outside of that house. Now, I have a lot of experience with properties. In fact, I purchased one of these properties where the front just didn't look all that nice and there wasn't that much traffic in the house. And this is a property that should have flown off the market, but because it wasn't updated, or at least it wasn't taken care of in the front, it detoured a lot of potential buyers from coming into that property. And that property ultimately sold for under asking price. So first thing, you want to take care of that front entry. You need to understand that the way the buyer is coming in, right? Coming in that front door on your patio and down your curb, and then into the front entry of your house. These are the first impressions that buyer is going to have of your property. And they are so critical to giving that buyer a good impression of that house. If those things aren't done right, the rest of the property could be perfect, but the buyers are going to be discouraged and they're not going to like the majority of it because that front entry wasn't done right and it gave them a bad taste in their mouth from the start. Now, number 3, you need to start working on decluttering your house. I can't tell you how important this is. There's a difference between living in a house and staging a house and getting a house ready to sell. Most people won't enjoy living in a staged house. Yes, it looks pretty, but it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel like your home. But you're not trying to go for something that feels like your home. You're trying to help a buyer envision themselves there. And when they walk in and they see knickknacks that are just everywhere, or they see boxes piled up in the corner, or they see kids' toys scattered around, or even piled up in a toy bin that's overflowing, that gives the buyers an impression. One, it tells them that the house is too small. Now, the house may not be too small. You may just have a lot of stuff, but it's communicating that the house is too small to the buyers. Secondly, the buyers are seeing all that personalized stuff, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, and it's hard for the buyers to envision their own stuff there. So when you're decluttering, you need to think like a minimalist. You need to say, I need to have the absolute minimal furniture. I need to have the absolute minimal decor. Now, you don't want nothing. You want stuff there. You do want some furniture and you do want some decor, but too much is always going to be a bad thing. Most people do not err on the side of not enough. They always err on the side of too much stuff. So start decluttering. Now, practically speaking, sometimes this is hard because you're getting ready to move from this house to another house, right? So here's some ideas. You can pack it up in boxes and put it in the garage. You know, the garage it's wonderful if the garage is completely empty, but it's not a deal breaker for most buyers if there's a ton of boxes or stuff that's in the garage. It's usually okay. A buyer can still see past that in a garage. Or an unfinished basement is another option. In worst case, you can go rent a storage unit and put a bunch of your stuff in that storage unit. I can't stress this enough. This is so important to giving a buyer a good impression of the house, making them feel like it's a good size house, and making them feel like they can make that house their home. Now, number 4 in this list is make your house as bright as possible. Check every light bulb you have and make sure that it is working, for one, but it is also a bright light bulb. You don't want really dim light bulbs unless it's gonna be like an ambiance light bulb or something. But typically you want the brightest light bulbs you can have. This also comes into play with the paint colors. You don't want dark colors in a house. You want really light and bright, like a really muted yellows or whites, or really light blues, or light tans, you know, something that's more trendy, but is very light. That's what you need to go for. I'm going to show you some pictures below here too, that'll show you the difference between a house that is really dark and a house that is really light. And it's obvious which house is going to show better. It's always going to be the light one. Now, that also means with your window coverings, make sure those are open when people come to see. And I highly recommend turning on all the lights before showing. Yes, I know this is wasting energy, but I'm telling you, it will make your house show so much better. Also, if you have some real dark window treatments like blinds and stuff, sometimes you want to change those out. If you have really dark carpet, considering replacing it, or maybe even just putting a really light rug over top of that carpet is another option. Same with hardwood. Sometimes just putting a runner or a rug over top of it will help lighten that up. The brighter you can get your house, the better. Nobody has ever walked into a house that I've shown that says, wow, this house is too bright. There's too much light going on here. It's always the opposite. It's always, wow, it just feels really dark and gloomy in this house. If you can make them feel like this is a bright, light house, you will sell that house a lot quicker. So number 5 in this list is consider updating your house. Now, maybe your house is only a couple years old and it's already updated. And if so, just skip this one. You don't need to do that. But most people are living in a house that's at least 10 years old and could use a little updating. Now, I'm not talking about changing absolutely everything, replacing flooring, repainting, changing all the fixtures and knobs and all that kind of stuff, redoing your kitchen. You can do that and your house will sell for more, but chances are you're not going to recoup your investment that you put into the house by doing all those things. But here's some things to consider. Change out some of, if you've got like those gold fixtures, even though I think they're kind of coming back, try changing some of those fixtures out. Try putting in door handles on your cabinets and just changing those knobs, the pulls on the cabinets. That can make a huge difference in your kitchen and actually make it look more updated. Try changing out the countertops. That's a good way to update your kitchen. Or, if you really are ambitious, change your cabinets or even repaint your cabinets sometimes is a good way to update those things. Doing some painting is a good way to freshen up your house and make it look more updated. There's a lot of things that you can do to just give your house just a little bit more of an updated feel. A lot of times when a buyer's walking in, they're calculating out in their minds, what are they going to have to do to this house to make it the house that they want? And every house that I've ever shown, people have walked in and had something that they've wanted to change. But the smaller on that list you can make it, the better. That buyer's going to feel like there's not as much to do, and they're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do anything on this house. I'm just going to move in and live, and it's going to be wonderful. So they're going to be able to go all out on that house and give you more than what you're even asking for that property. So consider doing some of these things. Again, don't go all out, but do consider some of the smaller things that can make a really big difference and go a long ways to making your house feel a little bit more updated. Now, number 6 is one that a lot of people don't like to do or they get a little bit confused on, and that is depersonalizing your property. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean taking all your family photos off the walls, patching those holes and repainting, taking any of the fun knickknacks that nobody else really will care about but are real special to you, pulling those down, trying to take your personality as much as possible out of that house. Now, maybe you painted a wall a bright pink because that's your favorite color. Great. Well, bright pink is going to be hard for most buyers to get over. So repaint that wall, take some of that personality out of that house. Now, I know this is hard, but here's the thing. That's what you did to the house to make it your house, right? Now, when somebody walks into that house, you don't want them to feel like they are in somebody else's house. You want them to feel like they are in a house that could be their house. And the more it feels like their house, the more, as an agent, I'll start hearing things like, oh, I could put the couch right here, or hey, this would be a great bedroom for Johnny, or this is a great kitchen. I could do a lot of cooking. I could do things. What's happening is all of a sudden those buyers are starting to envision themselves into that house. And there's so many buyers that they have to feel something in order to buy. And I'm just being honest. There's a lot of buyers out there that say, oh, no, that's not me. I'm completely logical with all this stuff. Fine. You can convince yourself of that, but I'm telling you, so often people make decisions about how they feel about a place when they're there, and they can't explain it to me because it's something that is completely subjective to them. But more often than not, it's because they don't feel like they're in somebody else's house. They feel like they're in a house that would take minimal work and it could be theirs. And those are the properties that go for big dollars because so many people want it to be their home. All right, so number 7, you need to spend some time staging a home. Now, all of the stuff that I've talked about so far is aspects of staging a house. But now you need to play around with some furniture placement, play around with your kitchen and different appliances if you have to have appliances on the counters. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll be in the pantry or the cupboards. Take some time, buy some vases of flowers, some pictures or some colors, little pops of color here and there to draw people's eye around the room. You don't want so much that they walk in and they're overwhelmed, right? This goes back to the decluttering. You want some though, where they look at this flower, then they look at this painting, then they look at this pillow or throw or whatever the case is. It'll draw people's eyes and people's attention. So when they're in there, they're not going to get bored or they're not going to miss parts of the house because they just overlooked it. They're going to be looking around the house because all of a sudden all these little things are catching their attention, and it's going to highlight some areas of your house that you really want those buyers to highlight. Now, when it comes to furniture placement, you want furniture that fits the room. You don't want furniture that's too small. That's going to make the room feel awkward. And you don't want furniture that's too big. That's going to make the room feel really small. You want furniture that's going to be open and inviting, and it gives the buyers an idea of how they can put their own furniture, especially in living rooms nowadays. Everybody wants these open concept living room, dining room, kitchen areas, which are awesome. I love them. The problem is when they're vacant and there's nothing in there, people have a hard time envisioning how big the dining room is because they don't see a table in there. Or they have a hard time envisioning where their furniture is going to go and what that's going to look like in a living room that doesn't have any walls. So you need to have some furniture in there to help people see how you can set things up in a way that makes it feel really homey and really comfortable and really functional for their family. Now, bedrooms are of less concern because usually by the time people get to bedrooms, they've already made a decision. However, I can't tell you how many times people go into a vacant bedroom and say, oh, this bedroom is too small. Too small. Well, the reality is the bedroom is probably fine, but there's no bed in it, so the buyers can't see that visual size representation of the bedroom, so it feels small to them. Almost explicitly, vacant properties will feel smaller than if you have some furniture in there, right? Not crowded with furniture, but some furniture. So staging your house is something that you really need to pay attention to. And again, go back to the entryway. Now, there's a house I just recently listed that was really outdated. But my wife came in and she did some things in the entryway, just a throw rug and a few pictures and a little table with some fun little candles or something on there. And it all of a sudden became a nice, trendy little entryway, and it changed the look of that entire house. And it will, because that's the first thing that people see. If the first thing that they see is an outdated dresser or coat hanger or picture that looks like something that would be in their grandmother's house, if that's the first thing they see, that's going to set the stage for the rest of the house. So that's what you need to focus on. You need to focus on that entry, and then you need to focus on the living, dining, and kitchen area. And then after that, you can focus on the bathrooms and the bedrooms, and then everything else follows beneath that. Really focus on the entry and the living area. That is by far the most important areas to focus on. Now, lastly, I want to talk about a step that a lot of people neglect, and that is spend some time interviewing some real estate agents. There's not a doubt in my mind that you will get more money for your house if you use a good real estate agent. Now, I know how this sounds. I know I'm a real estate agent. You're thinking, okay, Jamie, this is a little self-serving. I get it. But I'm telling you, I've seen for sale by owners, and I've seen for sale with agents that are not very good, and I've seen houses for sale with rock star real estate agents, And more often than not, in fact, explicitly, the ones that are sold by rock stars will bring more money. So what do you want to do? How do you find that rock star real estate agent? Do you look for the agent that's been in business for 45 years or 50 years? No, they may be great real estate agents. They may not be great real estate agents. Some of the properties that I've seen in the last couple of years, because it's easy to sell property from real estate agents on both experience levels, 50 years or 5 months, I've seen taken with cell phones, and the pictures look horrible. Don't hire a real estate agent that just takes pictures with a cell phone. You want a real estate agent that's going to invest money into marketing your property. And one of the most important parts of marketing a property in any market is going to be the pictures. Yes, in 2021, which is where we're at today, you can list a house without any pictures and you can get it sold quick. That's not the problem, right? That's not the question that we're trying to answer in this. We're asking, how can you get the most money for your property? How can you maximize those dollars? And you can do all the work to that property that I've already listed. And if that real estate agent doesn't do their job at putting good pictures and video of that property on the MLS and market it throughout other online and in-paper marketing strategies, then you're not going to maximize the dollars that you've already spent in your property. So find a good real estate agent. The other thing you want to make sure about that real estate agent is you want to make sure that real estate agent can communicate well with you. If that real estate agent says, hey, I'll list the property, I'll spend $1,000 in marketing, great, but you won't hear from me until we get an offer, honestly, that's not acceptable in my mind. And what I do is I call my clients every Tuesday. If your house is listed with me or property is listed with me, I will call you every Tuesday. I will tell you what I've done. I'll tell you what the interest has been. I'll tell you what the feedback, and then I'll ask you, what questions do you have? What concerns do you have? Do we need to start talking about reducing price? Now, in this market, we don't have that conversation a whole lot, but in sellers market or in buyers markets, we do have that conversation. But we need to be having conversations. That's the important part. Find a real estate agent that's going to do that for you and market that property and do everything they can to get you the most money for your property. Ask real estate agents for recommendations or referrals. Ask that real estate agent to speak to some of the previous clients of that agent, and then ask those clients, do you recommend them? Why do you recommend them? Now, every real estate agent is going to have their positives and their negatives. Let's just be honest about it. There's no real estate agent that's perfect. That's just the reality is. But if you know what the weaknesses of a real estate agent is, maybe that's not a big deal to you, and you can go ahead and hire that person. But don't be afraid to ask, because good real estate agents are out there. They're in every city, but they are probably the minority. The majority of real estate agents that are in the market are not going to be great real estate agents, and they're not going to do you any favors when it comes to getting your house sold, because they're just in it for the paycheck and they don't really care about putting forth more effort to get just a few more dollars in your pocket. Now, if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, I'm going to put another video up here, and this video talks about some questions that you should be asking real estate agents, and then I'm also going to put a link down below of some questions that you should be asking real estate agents. Watch that video, look at those questions. This is going to help you weed out the bums so you can find a rock star.